Yo! Video games.
I died.
There we go. Hello.
Heyo.
Sorry about that. I have not used Discord on this in a while.
Yeah.
Let me get you your audio plugged in.
All right.
Can you hear Simmons now? I think you can. I think we're good.
Hopefully.
Yeah, so they just Xeno shitted all over my FF7, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well.
Did it.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, there's this Xeno shit game. We should just do that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, you know, because like I was telling people, because from the trailer, I'm like, look, I'm telling you right now, this isn't like true like GTA open world. Like
No.
I'm telling you, like they're looking at the world map from 7, and they're absolutely like plugging in how it's going to be. Here's this big giant chunk of a continent, right? And the game did that already, like the original FF7 with like the crystal caves, at the, you know, after the swamp.
Yeah.
So I'm already sitting there looking at like the windmill thing, and I'm like, that's probably the Chocobo Ranch area of the continent, I want to say.
For sure.
And
yeah, no, the we actually just like literally we're doing GeoGuessr FF7 edition.
yeah.
Trying to pinpoint every single spot, and we got almost all of them. But yeah, at the beginning where you see like the big windmill farms on the edge of the coast,
Yeah.
it's right outside Com.
Yeah.
There's a shot of them leaving that bunker or whatever the hell it is.
Mhm.
It looks like it's a secret passageway because Shinra's probably after them, and the townsfolk probably help them out.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the background is like this very castle-like looking structure, and that's exactly what Com town is.
Because
all of that stuff you see is right outside Com.
I feel like Calm in the original game was like a leftover of a version of 7 that didn't happen, like a traditional.
Oh, yeah, 'cause it's a weird looking place.
Yeah, like a traditional medieval like Final Fantasy, right?
Yeah, it makes no sense. And the outside of it, like its polygonal structure looks nothing like it on the inside. You go inside and you're like in a castle. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So I've always kind of felt like Calm was like just like the remnants of a version of 7 that didn't exist. So that makes sense if you know, like what you were saying there with that. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? The bunker? Do you think the bunker is like them coming out of the Badlands around Midgard? Maybe, like maybe it's just.
I'm gonna say that the game probably picks up right in the flashback. I'm just gonna call this because we already see them go all the way to Com in the end of Integrate.
Integrate, right? Yeah.
So I'm gonna predict that you get the meat of the flashback as the beginning of the game, and Shinra's probably on the tail of the party. And they are given like a backdoor entrance of Com to like get the hell out of here, like go this way, and you go find Junyuan Harbor or some shit like that, or a Chocobo farm.
Yeah.
So like some of there's probably Avalanche members or a cell of Avalanche in that town that just helps them out, and they leave.
Do you think we're still gonna get a swamp and a giant impaled snake?
Oh yeah, I think that's impossible, right? I think on the way to Junon you're gonna get. The Crystal Caves was obvious. They showed it.
Yeah. Yeah, they did.
And I think the Zalem might even be the demo. I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a playable demo at TGS.
Yeah, because there was a demo for 7. Yeah, the bombing run. Now, obviously, we played that.
It was obviously the bombing run. But at the beginning of this one, they could possibly do like the Sephiroth sequence, but I think they would want you to utilize like all the party mechanics and like, you know, all that crazy shit, so they probably have to shove your ass a bit forward in the game a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which would
maybe
make sense to give you Yuffie and Barrett and everybody to mess around with. So to me, it make a lot of sense. Like, go find the Midgar Zalem and take it out. You know, that might be a fun thing.
There's an interesting shot when they're on this hill. Barrett's like up on a hill shooting a thing, and it looks like not Midgard, but maybe Midgar in the background.
Oh, it totally was Midgar. Yeah.
I wasn't even sure because I'm like, is it too small for Midgar, or it looks like Midgar?
It was just really far,
really far away. There. Yeah.
I just don't think it looked like it should have been further away. But certain parts of that environment aren't rendering right. In fact, we found like a couple of frames in between all the, you know, insanely bit-rated bullshit.
Yeah.
Where the environment literally doesn't load.
Oops.
And in 2 frames in, it kicks in. So it's like, it's obviously not done yet.
Well, I also think that I'm like, personally, I look at what's going on here, and especially with that whole thing with like, your party on like uneven ground all over the place. I'm like, yeah, I don't. I think I see why this is not on last gen. Like it's PS5 only. Like
Yeah.
I think it's very clear what they're doing here.
Oh yeah.
And I think they that comes with a lot of challenges too. Because you're going to have. I mean, streaming open just to large environments just causes all kinds of, challenges for
Especially
streaming
during
data.
combat and shit.
Yeah, so I'm like not really surprised that I'm actually very glad that it's section. You can really kind of see the sort of horizon-y stuff, like with the bar at the top where it shows like how far away like the goal is, like main quest and like the side quest points of interest are. And like with like the deer running and stuff, I'm like, okay, yeah, you can really see how this guy loved the environments of Horizon. Yeah.
Dude, did you see? So there's like 5 different icons that show up on that progress bar at the top.
Yeah.
No mini map, mind you. No actual mini map, just this like compass.
I wonder if they turn that off like on purpose so people wouldn't try to like
maybe. Yeah, I mean, to me, they have to have a map of some kind. Like, holy shit. But if you slow down the sequence with when Red 13 and Yuffie are doing like a team up tech, they're doing like a dual tech together.
Yeah.
If you slow it down, there's one marker on there, and it's either for like main quest or something, that is 11,000 meters away.
Yeah.
It's like an unfathomably long period of distance. I'm like, holy shit.
I want to say
that's fucking long, dude.
I want to say there was one that was maybe longer. I kind of remember there being like a 15 one, but I don't know. But yeah, there was one that was like, okay, this is really far away.
Yeah, like there's some 1500s, there's some 1200s. I'm like, that's pretty far. This one was like 12,000. I was like, holy shit, wow.
Okay, so you know what's interesting to me? No Vincent still. No Sid.
Yeah, they're saving that shit.
No Rocket Town. I do believe they're saving it on purpose. It's just kind of interesting to me that we saw Bugenhagen, which means, okay, so that's Cosmo Canyon, technically, right?
Yeah.
Which is probably the furthest timeline-wise they showed anything in the trailer.
Yeah, and even Cosmo Canyon up into that point represents like 2/3 of FF7 towns.
Yeah, well, that's another thing I was bringing up when when I was watching discussing the trailer right after it. I was like, there's not a lot after Cosmo, like Rocket Town and Wutai. Most of the world is more or less you've maybe seen it. Like there's Northern Crater, there's like the Northern Town, Temple of Ancients, City of Ancients, whatever.
Yeah,
but there's not a lot of like, there's all these many different like towns. I'm like, no, not really. Like in the original game, you get to the Northern Crater, and then the rest of the game is you going back to these various areas you've already.
The majority of it from that point is backtracking outside of like submarine stuff.
Yeah, like it's doing stuff like that. I'm really curious, actually. I have a feeling it's going to be like the original 7, where it's like, okay, so you saw like they're on the coast. I'm pretty sure there's not going to be any sort of like in-depth swimming mechanics or anything like that in the game. I'm just going to say it's going to be like the original game, where it's like you first get a tiny Bronco to like paddle around in, and then you'll get like an airship maybe later or something like that.
Yeah, dude, it's a Square Enix game. There's no way.
There's no way. I don't know. I mean, like it's pretty cool, but also there was, and then you saw the other shot where I'm like, okay, you can actually see how they're separating. There's those mountains with like the really snowy tips. I'm like, there's your sort of like, that's your natural barrier. Yeah. To where stuff's gonna be. I'm like they're not just gonna like, it's not gonna be like I could run to the Northern Crater from no, you can't.
It's not gonna be open like that. It's like it's gonna be segmented in the exact same way OG7 was, where there were natural made barriers in between one spot to the next, and the only way to overcome those barriers was with vehicles. And when you got a new vehicle, you had to like traverse the map to figure out where you had to go.
Yeah, and each vehicle could only do so much. Like
exactly. And that seems like a fantastic way to just continue progression around the world in general. That just makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, it's funny because we technically saw Bugenhagen, but like we didn't see any Golden Saucer or Barrett's hometown, not Coral. There's Coral Prison, Caramp or whatever it was called, and Barrett's hometown.
I think it's just Corel.
Corel, yeah, and his hometown and all that stuff. So that was that. There's actually I think there's a lot that they're not showing. Like they didn't even show Costa del Sol.
No, Costa del Sol's like pretty small.
It's
It's literally like I think 3 or 4 screens. It's the inside of 2 houses, the outside and the beach.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they're just saving a lot of that stuff. There's going to be like 7 months of marketing and buildup.
Yeah.
From this point forward, so they're going to save Sid, they're going to save Kate Sith, they're going to save Vincent for like their own individual trailers and stuff like that. And I feel like we're just going to incrementally get like more and more further down how far the game actually goes.
Do you think we'll see Hojo getting a tan on the beach?
I don't see why not.
Like that's such a small little thing. I don't know if people remember this. There's a weird scene of Hojo chilling on a beach chair.
Yeah.
In Costa del Sol.
He's got all these Shinra lady lackeys with him.
Yeah. It's such a bizarre scene.
I don't see why not. Like, I don't think he's gonna have any impact on the story. He's just gonna be there. they always do weird references like that, even throughout 7 Remake.
Yeah.
I don't see why not.
Yeah, that's actually kind of like strangely something I'm looking forward to. Is that what do you think they'll do about Condor Canyon or Fort Condor? I mean,
yeah, Fort Condor is funny because they already did a lot of that in Intergrade, so I don't know.
Yeah,
but it would make sense to me that it's like something a bit more focused, because Fort Condor is something that's easily like skippable. I would not be surprised if it's similar to the board game, but also something that has a little bit more importance, because it's a very easy to pass up Fort Condor in the OG one.
Yeah,
it's a money dump and all this stuff. It's actually not a great aspect of OG FF7, other than the fact that it gives you one of the best materials in the game.
Yeah.
I think it'll be there, but it might be just better utilized.
Yeah, maybe something like that. How much do you think? I mean, we saw a lot of stuff. How much do you think they're gonna like populate like new stuff? Because like the windmill things, that's kind of new, technically.
That's new. And to be honest, crazy rock lobster thing that you fight inside the cave, that's new. You fight the Turks in the OG game as the boss fight inside the Mithril Caves, and that's it. Mithril Caves are like super small.
Yeah.
And in this one, your party is seemingly like split up, where one side of the party is fighting, the Turks, and the other side of the party, which is like Barrett and Red 13, are fighting some crazy materia rock monster,
Yeah.
So it'll be stuff like that. It'll just impact area, zones, and environments more than they have before, where they aren't just like, oh, we're just going to run through this and that's it.
Well, the interesting thing here too is that like, it's like it's in English and Japanese. Like they're already done recording it. Like it's been recorded, probably been recorded for a while. So it's like this project I think kind of went along pretty well, and it really shows how Remake really was.
Meet him.
What, me?
No, sorry to the chat. Yeah, apparently you just meet the Turks in the caves. Go on.
Yeah, you do. It really shows how much like Remake was very much just building the core of the gameplay for what they had to do here, because it wasn't like it's not easy to basically all of a sudden, when now you got to build 100% new assets. Like maybe at June and Harbor you can reuse some stuff, but like they have to think about, they're going to build environmental assets which they had none of in the original game. So everything had to be just like, okay, we're going to have to like build all these crazy assets, but the core gameplay to me kind of looked the same, although there was obviously like
it's expanded.
Yeah,
the same, but it's like a sequel, the same but expanded. I mean, and that's the thing that I try to like echo to a lot of people. The thing that comes online the fastest in development, believe it or not, is art. Once things are decided, art comes online at a blitzkrieg pace.
Yeah.
So getting to create like environments and stuff, the tough part is like functionality. The tough part is like game design. Like how is all this going to work? How is it going to bleed together? What is dialogue like? How do you even converse with people? Like all that kind of shit has to be like figured out for years. And then, prototyped, and does this even function before a lot of the art comes online, Yeah. So once all of those situations, all those scenarios are kind of like, oh yeah, so here's how conversations work, here's how like all this shit kind of goes. Yeah, I'm not surprised that this game is likely going to be way bigger than Remake Part 1 and will come online in a way that is way faster, right?
So it's like, because this game's like 200 gigs or something insane now.
dude, two fucking discs is hilarious. Like that's the most hilarious statement of all of this, in my opinion. And like imagine the actual reality of that. Imagine that end screen doesn't say 2 discs, it says 200 gigs of data. That isn't exactly like marketable and great. That's like ugh. But for some reason 2 discs is like a statement that it's fucking huge, bro.
Yeah.
In a way that is good. And it's funny. They found a way to market the fact that it's going to occupy half of your PlayStation 5 in a good way.
Yeah, because what I don't know what is it? I think that is close to half of the damn hard drive. I think
it's close. Yeah.
Goodbye, Call. Well, I mean, I already got rid of Call of Duty.
And each one of the PlayStation 5 discs is 100 gigs. So, fuck.
It's a big boy, but like, yeah, I guess I'm curious to see how they'll handle sort of I guess what you call quality of life thing, because like the thing that you got to think about now with remake or Rebirth is landmarks, basically, like, you know, warp points, like points that you can warp to as you come across them, and then how lenient is the game with you fast traveling out of things. That's kind of something that was sort of like an interesting decision that Xenoblade kind of made early on and kind of stuck with, was that you might be story-wise like even in a specific area, you're supposed to be like, you know, sneaking into something, or
sure.
Oh no, and they kind of let you just fast travel out to past points on the map any time.
Yeah.
Like with
I don't think they'll do that here initially, because like the OG 7, once you get to a certain spot where you can only go like a specific direction, I think there will be warp points like Part 1 had, because Part 1 had like the chocobo banners, and you could warp all across Midgar and shit. I think there will be something like that, because we did see in the trailer there's a command to call for chocobo. And you can just call a chocobo at any point. They were running around, and you can just call a chocobo.
Yeah.
So it seems like when you get your chocobo, you just get them. But I wouldn't be surprised if like down the line they introduce like something like the PHS. I don't know, something way down the line that is like, oh, so you visited enough of the world map and all this shit. We're just gonna integrate a mechanic that allows you to teleport to these specific locations, like bus stops or whatever.
Yeah. You know? In Horizon, it's fireplaces. I can't remember. Someone in my chat would definitely know. I can't remember if you could just call up the map and then go to a specific fireplace, or do you have to go from fireplace to fireplace? You know, like a chocobo stop. But I'd be curious to see if. I guess it really depends on how they're planning on progression. Because, you know, like the way they do it, like I said, like the way Xenoblade handles it, kind of just like, when you're progressing the story and then going into new areas, if you want to go to new areas to progress the story, you have to go back to the spot you warped out of, and progress the story before it's going to just allow you to go there. And then like the checkpointing is kind of done in a very like obvious, specific manner, so that you know, you don't like checkpoint yourself accidentally away.
Yeah.
From going ahead of where you're supposed to be, kind of thing.
The chat's saying that in like Horizon, you could do it for free from a campfire, but if you were in the map directly, it required a resource called like travel packs.
Oh yeah, that's right. And then there was something you could ultimately like earn, called like a freebie, an unlimited travel pack. Yeah, so I remember that.
That makes sense. That, you know, the OG mechanic was like a tent, where if you used a tent, you immediately recovered all the HP of your party.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do something like that, right? Where like the tent is a travel thing. Allows you to, like, you know, pack up and move yourself to another location on the map, but it is a resource. Until probably a certain part of the game where you just, you know, get that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised.
And maybe there's even a thing, because this is not the end of the trilogy. There's going to be more. I almost wonder if there's a point near the end or post game even, where they're like, okay, you're free to sort of fast travel for free in any point. Just come back here to do the final battle if you want to do the final battle and watch the ending again.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that will probably be at like the Icicle Inn or something like that, like something up there, because I still feel like this is going to end at the Northern Crater before destruction. That we were going to go all the way till the events of the Northern Crater, so there might be a spot somewhere up there, which is like, this is end game. You can choose to go back and revisit the world if you want.
So you don't think they're going to end at Aerith's death? I mean, whatever, spoilers.
Dude, I mean, spoilers, but yeah, I think they're gonna have you insert disc 2 at the exact same fucking spot. I think that's what that's for.
I don't know. Actually, isn't it now? You don't even insert disc 2. You literally just install all of disc 1, and then you install all of disc 2, and then you can play the game. Like you can't even play it until you've installed it off both discs.
Yeah, maybe it'll say install disc 2.
Install disc 2 now.
At that point. And it's like your personal intermission, you know?
That'd be an interesting way to go about it. But there was that line at the end, and I think they're pulling a fake out on people with the Tifa, like, you know, getting chopped by Sephiroth, and I'm like, no, they're not talking about her. They're talking about Aerith.
No, it's definitely Tifa. The Japanese version literally says Tifa.
Oh, does it?
It literally says Tifa. Yeah, and Sephiroth is just doing the exact same shit he did to Cloud in the OG game. They're just fucking with him.
I thought they were pulling a fake out on us, maybe with like I killed her. Who's she? Kind of thing. But okay, so if the Japanese dialogue specifically identifies it,
it's
as Tifa.
People are reaching there. It's not. It's exactly as it appears on screen.
I thought it might. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, the thing is, that's Crisis Core stuff, right? And that's, I mean, they show it in the original game, but
they do.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
According to Sephiroth, yeah, she's dead.
Yeah,
gotta be real. Because what happens to Sephiroth immediately after that, he has no way to confirm the kill.
Yeah, because he just goes right in.
Yeah, according to him, she's dead. So even he's kind of like, the fuck you alive for?
Yeah.
And that just further sets up for, you know, Cloud to mistrust the people around him and trust Sephiroth to give him the black materia. Because the same shit's going to happen, right? Like, we're all agreeing that, yeah, Cloud being completely fucking gaslit by Sephiroth is just the story of OG FF7.
Yeah.
It's the entire story of the old game. And the difference now is the second timeline where, you know, Zack's going to be alive, where the main party is seemingly fucked up from the beginning of the trailer.
Yeah.
And how different is that one going to be? Because in that one, Cloud takes the place of Marco on the way to the Northern Crater. And Zack is left in a timeline where the normal party that is doing what they do is, you know, left debilitated by the events of Midgar. So, you know, it's interesting. Now Zack in his timeline is going to be heading to the Northern Crater, but not for the exact same reason that the main party is. He's going up there to save his friend. He's going up there to save Cloud.
Yeah, which... Are they going to converge? Is that what we're getting going for here?
I mean, yes, they're going to converge in the final moments of the final version of the game.
Yeah.
This whole story ends with Zack losing Cloud, right? Cloud's going to die in his timeline. Zack is losing everything, right? Again,
Yeah.
FF7 story is a story about loss and dealing with loss. Outside of it being life in the planet, it's also about dealing with loss and how we're losing our planet as well, and coping with that loss. Every character in the game goes through that. Yeah. And Zack's timeline is going to be him losing everything, like potentially losing his waifu, potentially losing his best friend, because Cloud is being manipulated by Sephiroth in that one. He turns into the hooded figure.
Yeah.
And likely Cloud's going to die in Zack's timeline,
which you totally see in the trailer with him saying reunion. Yes,
yeah, and the thing is, we already saw that scene with the correct guy in part 1.
Yeah.
So it's like, so why is that different now? Oh, it's because it's the alternate. It's Zack's timeline, right? It's the weird flashback to the other events. So yeah, there's going to be a timeline convergence, and the timeline convergence is going to be Zack meeting up with his friend that he lost. Right? He's going to be eventually meeting up with Cloud again to beat the shit out of Sephiroth. That's the conclusion of this whole thing.
Well, I also am curious.
Way better conclusion than just fighting Sephiroth.
Is there going to be a moment where possibly Sephiroth, the one we saw at the end of Remake, is he going to interfere somehow with? Because here's the thing: a lot of people forget you don't really actually see or talk to Sephiroth much in the original game. It's not Sephiroth; it's actually Genova. You're mostly talking to Genova most of the time.
Yeah, you're talking to like memories of Sephiroth and shit.
Yeah, you're mostly talking to Genova, and Genova cells manipulating you. You don't see the real Sephiroth till you get to the Northern Crater. Yep. He's just frozen up there, which makes you wonder if there's going to be this other. Because my headcanon right now is somehow some Sephiroth, like somewhere, something realized that he got a glimpse of the future or something. He realized something was wrong, or like he's going to lose, right? And the Sephiroth we saw in Remake was a Sephiroth who was aware of what was going to go down.
7 seconds to the end.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah, that version of Sephiroth specifically is the one, right? Like, that one is a hyper-aware version of Sephiroth that knows the events of, like, Advent Children and fucking everything.
Yeah.
That literally sees the events of OG FF7 happen before him. Cloud does Omni Slash and he blocks all of it. It's like, oh shit. So this guy is hyper fucking aware. Like, this is like the ultimate Agent Smith of all of them.
Right, yeah.
And in the OG game, you don't get that at all. Like, that does not exist. You pretty much never meet the real Sephiroth until the flashbacks, and you realize that's him.
Yeah.
And until he pops out of a crystal, you know, at the top of the planet.
Yeah.
Shit. Everybody else is essentially a what's it called? An Advent Children, right? Every other person that's holding the DNA of Sephiroth is a potential Sephiroth body that could become him. Like, you know, literally Kadaj bullshit.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like, the only time you actually run into the real Sephiroth is at the very, very, very fucking end of the game when he's like ascending to become a fucking god.
Yeah, which makes me wonder if he'll interfere at all with your party's progress, you know, to delivering the black materia to him.
Absolutely. So that's the interesting part of the story that we still don't know. All of this, we get an idea of Zack's side of the story. We get an idea of Sephiroth's side of the story. He wanted to interrupt all this shit from happening. So Sephiroth clearly knows, or has a potential of knowing, what's happening in Zack's timeline as well as Cloud's timeline, because he's like fucking interdimensional and shit at this point, right? So
yeah, we don't even know. We don't know what the Sephiroth actually even is. Is he just pure like live stream?
We have no fucking clue. You know, like he's in fucking space and shit. When he's talking to Cloud, we have no clue what that shit is, and like. There's a nebula in the background that looks like the end of 7. We still have no actual direct confirmation of what his intentions are. We just know that there's like 4 different Sephiroths technically, but the real one is the crazy motherfucker in space.
Yeah,
that talks completely different.
Part of me wonders if he's either a weapon, possibly.
Yeah, maybe.
Like a live stream concentrate. Like, you know, maybe he's some form of physical manifestation concentrated to, like, I don't know, prevent a disaster from happening on the planet, or do something like that. Like, I have a feeling it's going to go there, because I hate to bring it up, but like Dirge does exist, and then Dirge presented the idea that all the live stream on the planet was going to basically collect
it out,
collect itself together and just fuck off into space, and then go find a new planet to restart on.
Yeah,
which always was a weird thing to me, because
Dirge has some weird ideas in it.
Which was like weird to me, because I'm like, that's literally Genova's plan. Like, why would the planet, whatever? But yeah, I don't know. Like, the part of me is kind of curious to see where they go with that, because I don't think it's going to diverge that much from the core story.
F's remake timeline, not at all. I think it's mostly going to be the same. And then you're just going to get weird flashbacks and moments, just like we did with part 1. I personally feel like the way you set this up is you deliver the idea to the player that there can be change. That's the best way to divert expectations. You deliver the idea to the person playing that the events that are happening in this timeline can change, right? To take that away, to remove that hope at some point.
Well,
no, things are going to go down.
Do you think they'll do anything with the possibility of Biggs and Jesse being alive?
I think they're alive in Zach's timeline. We already kind of got confirmation of that.
Right. Do you think they'll do anything with that in this game? Like bring the voice actors back? You know, there'll be I don't know, a cutscene or something with them or something.
I no shit think they're part of Zach's party. I think that's who he goes with.
That would make a lot of sense, actually.
Because obviously, like Barrett, Aerith, Tifa, Red 13, they're all fucked up.
They're all dead or going into deep ground or something. Like
or something.
Yeah,
like some crazy shit.
Yeah, they're either. Do you think there'll be any swapping between like swapping game modes between timelines?
Yeah, somebody was saying, what if one disc is Cloud and one disc is Zach? And I'm like, no. Just on like a raw conceptual idea, think about it. You have like a Cloud disc and a Zach disc, and one is the game that you remember. You're like, of course I'm gonna play the Cloud disc. I don't know who the fuck Zach is because I didn't play the old games.
Yeah,
I don't even know what the fuck. So that doesn't make any sense. I think Zach's timeline stuff is just going to be interwoven into the story exactly the way they handled Laguna in FF8.
Okay, yeah. I mean, what if Zach's DLC? What if he's integrated?
I don't think dude, I thought that was going to happen in part 1. I really did. I thought they were going to do that, but they did that with Yuffie. I don't think they'll do that. I think he's just going to be part of the story itself.
You think?
And it's going to be like Cloud's going to have these moments where he's like talking to himself and shit, which happens a lot in OG7.
Yeah.
And in those moments, it'll fucking pass over to the other timeline or some shit, and then he'll wake up and it'll be Zach.
Yeah, okay, I get
that's
you.
How I think that's the best way you could handle it.
If there is an intergrade, do you think it'll be about Vincent then? Yeah. Not Zach.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah, I mean, fuck, they could do that. You know,
like because like maybe you'll meet him in this game and he's like, "Leave me alone, I want to sleep" or whatever, and then and then integrate is him like kind of like getting up on his own and going, "Ah, shit, something's going on in the world, and I need to."
Yeah,
figure
they
out what.
could save Vincent for a DLC situation. I hope they don't, just because we're obviously going to make it to
Nibelheim,
Nibelheim, and Mount Nibel and all that stuff in the Shinra Manor. I don't think. I think Vincent's going to be like an integral part of the game, just like every other party member, and whatever DLC that this game sets up for, I think will maybe be something else. I don't know, because I get where you're thinking, where it's like, oh yeah, they had an extra party member character that was optional, act as DLC for part 1.
Yeah,
and yeah, Vincent's got a lot of wonderful backstory, and probably is technically the most story-rich character of FF7.
Yeah,
of all the party members, so he would make a great DLC character. So I could definitely see them fucking doing that, but I don't want it. I don't want them doing that.
What if the optional stuff in Wutai becomes your DLC?
That's 2 Yuffie DLCs. No,
it is 2 Yuffie DLCs.
They're not doing that.
You don't think they'll do that? Because like that would make the only reason I can see them doing that is it would be like, okay, because Integrate is like in whole new areas of Midgar, whole new stuff, right? Yeah. And like Wutai being a very small, thin continent in the original game, is like, oh yeah, they'll put that area of the world map in this DLC over here. Maybe.
You know what? There is one character that they could potentially push to a DLC that wouldn't be the most enticing DLC, but I could see them pushing as a DLC.
Just as long as it's not Leslie.
No, it's Kate Sith.
Keishi, whatever however you pronounce it. Would he be in Midgard, or would you be running around as his?
I don't fucking know.
Would you? Well, would you be playing as not Rufus? Whatever his name is, the actual owner, or are you playing as the cat on the Moogle?
No, you're playing as a big bobbly moggly thing.
Because we didn't see him at all in the trailer either.
No, that's another character that's been omitted.
Yeah, Reeves
we know exists.
Playing as Reeves, but like not him. Playing as Kate Sith, like, that would be weird.
It would be weird.
Didn't he have?
There's one character I can see them doing that for. That's the fucking character.
I could see him being a party member. I don't know, like as like the main playable character you run. Oh man,
yeah, the only part of the game where Kate Sith even has any remote like impact on the story is Temple of the Ancients.
Yeah. Go in the
You know?
golden saucer leading up to that part, yeah.
Yeah. Due to like a weird storyism, he needs to sacrifice his body.
Yeah.
So that the materia can be, you know, condensed into the black materia, because the black materia is the Temple of the Ancients.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of shit. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
but Kate Sith is definitely the least required character of all of FF7.
More than Yuffie?
Yeah, yes, actually. Yuffie, it represents like a town and city that is escaping the plight of, you know, Shinra, and you get to understand like the differences there, where it's like, oh, these people didn't get a reactor made. Now they're literally at fucking war with Shinra.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's some interesting story there. No, Yuffie has a pretty good attachment to the story. Kate Sith, if we're talking about as Kate Sith as a character and not the person piloting him, which is like Reeve, I think is what it is.
Yeah, Reeves.
Has very little impact on fucking anything, dude. It's just the Temple of the Ancient scene from what I remember.
Yeah, he's basically a plot point.
Yeah. But you need your weird ass character, right? You need your weird fucker.
Yeah, I guess. I just don't know if... Well, it could mean we're speculating on things that already exist when, again, it could be like Intergrade, where it's like it's something that is completely brand new.
Yeah.
Right? Like something totally different.
Yeah. But granted, I don't think they're gonna do that. I don't know what they're gonna do for DLC of this game. I have no fucking clue. I just don't think we know enough about this game to have any bearable understanding of how the DLC is going to plan out.
And to be honest, I didn't even think about DLC when Remake was coming out. I didn't think about it at all. Like, I was like, oh yeah, and then they're like, oh, we're going to do a remake.
I tossed around the idea at the end that there could possibly be a Zack DLC, you know, of what you're going to play out Zack's timeline a bit. But it turns out that is more directly integrated into the story.
Yeah.
Because in Zack's timeline, like, major party members are out of commission.
Do you think anything might tie in with Ever Crisis? Like, that could even be hinting at possibilities for DLC or just new areas, new experiences in Rebirth.
Yeah, they have like some First Soldier stuff. I don't know, because we don't actually know enough about Ever Crisis.
Yeah,
because Ever Crisis is just kind of like a 1-to-1, but different visuals. So. And they're obviously like expanding the story with First Soldier shit, even though that game is literally done.
Dead. The beginning where Sephiroth's calling him on Genesis on the phone, was that in Crisis Core? I don't remember that.
No, but it would definitely be around that time frame.
Yeah.
Right? It would, because that's the point where Genesis goes defective from Shinra. And then after that, Sephiroth goes defective, or Angeal goes defective, and then Genesis goes defective, and then Sephiroth goes defective, and that's when Shinra starts freaking out because all these monsters are essentially running around. So yeah, that's the part where Sephiroth is essentially trying to figure out where Genesis is.
Yeah,
it makes sense for the timeline.
There's a big connection there between Lucrezia and Genesis and Angeal and all that. So. And Vincent.
Yeah, and it's fucking awful. And it needs to be retold in a way that doesn't, you know, literally make me want to stick a pencil in my ear. So that, luckily enough, they already did that shit in Intergrade, where they reintroduced a lot of those elements.
Yeah.
And you know, that makes sense.
So here's I don't think, obviously I don't think the Highwind's going to be a thing in this game yet. I don't think I don't think we'll get to the submarine either.
No. So that's all after
after
the execution.
Yeah.
I think the execution is likely where, right before the execution is where this game stops. Which is the craziest Empire Strikes Back, you know.
Yeah.
Fucking cliff. You think the cliffhanger of part 1 is bad? Holy shit, man. That ending, if this is good, the ending of part 2 is going to be the most brutal cliffhanger ever.
But will they begin episode 3 with Tifa getting into a Tekken fight with Scarlet on Juna's kit?
They absolutely will. Dude, the starting part 3 with essentially the Junon the Junon execution / escape and the weapon attack is such a cool starting moment. That's such like a great. That's like almost a like a reactor bombing start to a game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which could be super fucking cool. And then meeting up with Barrett and your other party members, and then what do right at the beginning after that? You get the high wind.
Yeah.
Like, establishing right at the start. Remember that big open world you had before? Now you can fucking go anywhere.
That would be a very good way to like sort of pivot into part 3.
And that's a different game, you know? Like that's at that point, that's a very different game.
And you're doing like the whole search for Cloud thing or whatever. I wonder if that'll even play in where it's like, well, we know where he is because we played the original game, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if there was ever I don't know if they ever made you guess where Cloud was in the original.
Yeah.
Or not, but
you just kind of picked up on clues and went from place to place. Yeah, chat has a really good point. This is essentially, getting back Han Solo in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
It's the same shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's a good starter.
Yeah, and that's why I think you're right about the beginning of this game is going to be the flashback of Cloud, Sephiroth, and Nibelheim, although it's supposed to be Zack, but whatever. Like him retelling the story in the hotel, like that's your intro, is them in the truck, and then the big dragon fight, and then just everything leading up to that, and leading up to the Sephiroth going nuts or whatever, and then it's like Rebirth kind of thing. Maybe there'll be some sort of tease in the flashback because you kind of see that when he's talking to Tifa, and it kind of like fuzzies out.
Yes, that his memories are false.
Yeah,
or that Cloud is an unreliable narrator. They're setting up an interesting thing where Cloud is. They're trying to pitch to us that Tifa doubts Cloud's capability of recollecting the past.
Yeah,
but they're also proposing the fact that Cloud believes what he believes, and the other people around him are lying.
Yeah,
because he's under the influence of Sephiroth, right? And that's what Sephiroth is literally promoting at the end of the trailer. Like, if I killed her, then who's she?
Yeah.
And so Cloud is like, this isn't my best friend. This isn't who I grew up with. What the fuck is going on? That happens in Original 7.
Yeah.
That's what Sephiroth literally fucks with Cloud the entire way, especially when he gets closer to the Northern Crater. Because he still has a job to do.
Yep, deliver the black materia.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll. Interesting. I guess it wouldn't be this game. I wonder if they'll do anything more with the white materia or not, because it's kind of like this weird sort of like plot point that kind of doesn't get brought back up that much after it's gone.
I think it technically only comes back at like the very end.
Yeah.
Of the game in the OG game. Because it's literally like the Earth materia, right? Not like Earth is in Quake 3, but like the power to use Gaia as a weapon to protect itself. That's what white materia kind of is.
Yeah.
So it's holy. It is technically important until the very end of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, but either way though, I think. I think I will. I mean, straight up with this trailer, like I think this is probably my most anticipated game, now for.
Yeah, I was about to say, you were like, man, I got nothing else to look forward to. All my Xenoshits is done, and then this pops up.
Yeah, and it's funny just because I'm like I said, this is everything I wanted. Like I wanted to see the rest of the world. Like because even if you're a fan of Midgar, I'm like, you gotta admit, like so many of the compilation things were so hyper focused on that one area of the world. Like, so much of it was. And I was like, there was a whole world out there beyond this. And it's like, it felt like Square wasn't interested in that either. So I'm actually
the best part of Rebirth, right?
Yeah. Is this sort of like, okay, well, yeah, like there's a lot to tell. There's a lot of story. And I actually am excited because I think it's actually a really good opportunity, to expand the world. I mean, you could argue, well, they kind of did. There's Gungaga. Like, yeah, who cares? Like, okay, whatever, Gungaga.
There's
dumb apples. Like,
there is a shot in the trailer, which I'm gonna throw out like a hyper prediction of just world expansion, where the characters are running across all these like wrecked ruins and shit like that.
Yeah, on the chocobos, and I'm like, I wonder if that's like a town or something that got screwed up by the swamp, or maybe.
My hyperbrain prediction is that is Benora.
That makes sense too.
It's the place that Shinra nukes.
Nukes, yeah.
In Crisis Core, and they leave it. They like literally kill all the inhabitants and everything, just to wipe it off the planet because of the dumb apple place, right? It's where Angeal's parents were.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a big nuke. Granted, that was a huge fucking mushroom cloud, but you know, maybe that is the remnants of that place. I think that would be a nice world expansion, you know, to sort of fuck around there, because that should be, there should be a big, you know, crater somewhere out here.
Yeah.
Of something that happened in the past, and they've already referenced a bunch of Crisis Core stuff before.
What was there's also that, I forget the name of the town. Like, it's also blown up where the reactor blew up.
Gongaga.
Yeah, and like that's the part where is that the town where you hear Reno and Rude like discussing who they like more between Tifa and Aerith?
Yeah, they're like talking about who's hotter.
Yeah.
That's Zack's hometown.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of people died there because the reactor blew up like several years in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they're not shying away from the Turks, but it is also kind of like, it's also weird to me that like how beloved like the Turks became, kind of like post 7 and whatever. And I'm like, you know, they're kind of like totally murderers, right?
They're the mob, yeah.
Like, you know, they totally tried to murder like all of Sector 7 and definitely killed a bunch of people there. Like,
yeah, but they're slightly questioning whether or not what they're doing is wrong.
Yeah, are we the bad guys? Are we the baddies?
They have that element to them at least. So, you know, at least they have a somewhat of a recollection of humanity to them, unlike President Shinra, who's just fucking Donald Trump. So
yeah, right. Yeah,
it's different.
Well, okay, correct me if I don't remember Elena being introduced after I guess, was she? Was she always?
No, she pops in the same spot. Yeah, I think you meet Elena in the Crystal Caves, in Mithril Caves.
I do remember that, but I'm like, was that really the first time you ever meet Elena?
Yes.
Huh. I guess I just forgot that part of it. Yeah, like her being.
It's brief, right? And Elena doesn't get much to do in the story, just in general.
No.
They'll probably get more of an opportunity to flesh the character out.
Yeah. Okay, what part of the world or characters would you like to see fleshed out more? Like, what's an area of the original games, just characters or world, that you want to see more of or fleshed out?
The ultimate one that's gonna here's the one spot of the game that I think is gonna fuck everybody up is Barrett's hometown. Yeah, chat called it. It's Dine. It's the story of Marlene's father.
Yeah.
That shit will, if that's handled well, that shit's gonna fuck people up. Because it's fucking sad. Barrett's backstory is fucking sad, dude.
That shit's gonna fuck
you
up.
Even for the old creepy polygonal characters that they were, right? It shit is very dark and super sad.
Yeah.
That he's not even allowed to be her father anymore, type stuff. It's like, fuck, this is brutal.
Yeah. But it shows why Barrett's such a good dad. Well, Barrett's a great character.
Exactly.
Barrett's a great character because like people think like, you know, Barrett's sort of comedy relief. He's just like, you know, big eco warrior. You know.
Oh no.
I'm like, yeah, but did you play if you play the game to the part where he re-meets Dine and you go over like his backstory, because Barrett's not from Midgar originally or anything, and I'm like,
yeah,
that's
you got to start like thinking of how many great moments are spattered throughout disc 2. I'm sorry, spattered throughout OG FF7. Mm-hmm. Like you literally get Junyuan Harbor and the celebration there, right? That's happening.
Rufus's welcoming ceremony, yes.
The welcoming ceremony is such a cool fucking moment.
Yeah.
You literally get the chorale sequence in the prison with Dine and stuff. You literally get all the crazy like dating stuff that happens and like the character interaction stuff in the Golden Saucer. You get the story of Seto and Nanaki that happens down there. You actually get the backstory of Nibelheim in the Shinra Manor and shit. Like, there's so many great fucking moments that happen in that part of FF7 that it's like it's truly the most like story-rich part of the game.
Yeah, like
no, you go to space later. Going to space would definitely be the next game.
Yeah,
that's like save for the next one. Sid getting his comeuppance and his moment is a bit later.
Yeah. That's way later. Like, because that's when Meteor's already on its way, and they basically just try throwing a rocket, a nuke at it to blow it out of the air in space
with the big materia.
Yeah, that's definitely not. That's not till like way later. I mean, you'll see Rocket Town because like I don't know if they're gonna have any good opportunity to use Palmer and Heidegger. They don't show up in the original game until Rocket Town, I don't think.
No, they don't. And I think we're definitely getting Rocket Town in this game, like almost for sure.
Yeah.
But I think Palmer is gonna get hit by a truck for sure. He's definitely gonna get hit by a truck. Just like the old game. That has to happen.
I hope it does. It may not make much sense for how he's going to survive that, but
no, it'll happen. He's just going to get run over by a fucking truck, and that's how he dies. But he doesn't. That's right. He doesn't die. Does he?
I don't think he does. I don't think he
somehow survives that truck.
Yeah, like maybe they'll just have him get like knocked into like a big stack of hay or something. I don't know.
Stupid. He should die from that.
He should die from.
It should be like our scene where Captain Commando gets run over, and it's just like you hear the sound effect, and you're like, oh, and the reaction of the characters. That guy's very dead.
It's just like, well, that happened, and they just walk away. They just like, oh my god, the dolphin kid drowning. I remember that.
Yeah, that's another part of the story that is like kind of forgotten about is the small little cute town outside of Junin Harbor.
Yeah,
and you get the little girl with her dolphin that helps you get across like the big security barrier.
Yeah.
I think that'll still happen. I think Priscilla, that's her name. I think that'll still happen.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally. There's definitely gonna be a mini game where you have to like walk in line with the rest of the soldiers.
Oh fucking A! I mean, dude, all that shit's gonna be there.
Yeah,
all of it has to be there.
There's gonna be a creepy boat ride with the Genova fight.
Yeah, we saw that one already.
In the trailer, you think? That
has to be it.
That's what I was saying, and then someone thought it would be somewhere later, but it seemed like that'd be too much later. I'm like, it's got to be the boat.
It's Yuffie's freaking out and uncomfortable because she's been throwing up the entire boat ride.
Yeah.
And she gets the fuck out of there, but it's definitely on the boat because the only other time Genova shows up is after a certain event in the Forgotten City.
Yeah, after that. So I was like, it has to be on the boat, and
it pretty much has to be.
Are we gonna? Will they try to do anything crazy? Like, there's got to be a moment where like they're all in disguises, and Red 13's like, "What do I do?" And then Barrett's just like, "I don't know. Try putting it on." And like he tries to stand up, and then he's just like, "No, this is ridiculous." Like, they gotta have a callback to like Red 13 trying to walk on two legs.
I think that'll happen for sure. I honestly don't see why those things can't happen. Like the way they handled humor in part 1 was so good and was like actually funny that I completely trust the localization of this team to fucking nail it.
There's such a great moment that's not in the original game but in remake where like Barrett basically like, we'll try smiling, and like Red 13's like, ugh. He's like, maybe never not. He's like, you know what, maybe not.
Yeah.
Like I actually loved all that stuff, and it's funny, interesting that we saw clearly how Red 13's going to play, like nuts, of course, because they remember they were saying like, they didn't want him to be playable in remake because he comes in so late, which I thought was a little unfortunate, but I get it. But yeah, he definitely looks fun from what we saw in the snippet of the trailer with that weird little like I don't know what it is, like it's an onion thing with like two big floppy ears or whatever.
Yeah, it's like it's almost hard to see what the hell he's fighting. So did you see that for the combat, for all of the characters that are not in the party, they are viewing what's happening from a further distance. And they're actually, it's hard to point them out because the bitrate is so bad, but Barrett and Tifa, when they're not being utilized, are actually there.
Well, I was pointing out there's a part where he goes to the Chocobo Ranch, right? And Aerith is all the way on the other end, just sitting like standing against a post or something, right?
Yeah, so the party's always with each other.
And then there's a part where like Aerith and Red 13 are in a river, and Cloud's walking to the river, but they're ahead of him down in the water. So I'm like,
yeah, like the party's always there. So the old prediction I had was that we're gonna get a Final Fantasy X sort of situation where your party's like always available.
yeah.
And if you want to actively switch to another character, you can. And I mean, we all but got confirmation of it, because if you frame by frame some of the combat sequences, yes, you can literally see the other party members. They're there. It's that, you know, actively bringing them in. We don't know how they're going to do that, or if it's going to cost ATB or whatnot.
Yeah,
it's great.
That's an interesting question, but it's pretty cool. I think there's a funny thing that they're going to maybe do. Okay, here's a weird prediction. In the original game, you choose your party members when you just depart Midgar. That's not going to happen this time. I think when you go through maybe the caves, they may actually ask you who you want to party with.
Yeah, I was getting the same feeling
when,
too.
When
right?
you like, because like they're clearly split up between like Barrett and Red. Maybe it's set in stone or whatever. Yeah. But I could see that being like there being a fun moment where like the party has to split up, and they basically let you choose, like kind of a little bit like how like when like when you drop down in the sewer in the first game,
sure.
With apps. I almost wonder because I almost wonder if there'll be moments like that. Where they're like, hey, which one are you going with? And then like Barrett's like, yeah, I figured you'd go with the two chicks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that'll. I was even looking at that sequence and going like, yeah, maybe this could actually be the case, right?
Yeah, just maybe, like a fun little moment like that or something.
And that's the kind of part of the game that they could expand upon and make it different than the one before. That's like a cool like world building situation where you can replay it, play it with different characters, see what they have to say.
Yeah. I guess there's really not. I mean, towns will probably function almost identically the same way.
Yeah, some small. Like their towns are pretty small in FF7 in general, outside of
very
Golden Saucer and Junon. You know?
Yeah, they're pretty. They're pretty tiny. Like even
they don't need to be big.
Yeah,
I think that's what and once again, old theories. We broke down like major towns, median towns, and like minor towns. Towns that are like 3 screens or something like that. And there's a lot of those. There's actually like a whole bunch of these like smaller sized towns that do flesh out the world.
Yeah.
But don't require a lot of work, most likely.
Yeah, I mean, because like, will they make Calm any bigger or not? Hard to say. Cosmo Canyon is probably going to be somewhat larger, I imagine. Yeah. Probably maybe same with Junon. Junon's just big, just because it's a giant cannon. Here's an interesting question. Do you think they'll do time of day progression or not?
So I have no idea, but maybe not. Just because they might want the world to look that way all the time.
Yeah, because like Junon's always kind of like sunset when like in the original game.
Exactly. Yeah, like we associate how these places look by like the time of day around them. Like whenever you got closer to Midgar, it always like the air and the light got sucked from the image when you got close to it. Yeah. I feel like they want the visual aesthetic of each one of these areas to likely stay the same, but there is going to be weather. In the Japanese version of the trailer, there's some weird minor differences. When the characters are like Cloud and Barrett are fighting. Yeah, they're fighting in like a really like misty, woodsy looking forest.
Yeah.
In the English one, and in the Japanese one, it's just a normal forest in the sunlight.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, what the hell? So if you look at the Japanese one, there's some pretty minor differences, but they are there. One of them has Cloud like on top of that cliff with Midgar in the background. And the English one, he's just straight clipping through a rock when he does his big super. In the Japanese one, he's further away from the rock and he's not clipping. So it's like, oh, weird.
Interesting. Yeah, so well, obviously, because I actually, this is something I actually remember pulling from Xenoblade trailers. When they would have them come out, because the English version would have ever so slightly different, like they try to recreate the same battle as much as possible, but like you would notice certain different prompts come up, like like icons and whatever, and then like you were able to pull a couple different things out of it because of that. So, and I guess it makes sense for this because it's not like you can just like replay this, replay the same footage from something, and just change the whole language around like that. No, it's like someone went in and recorded the game on both. He recorded the game once Japanese and recorded it again with the English dub on. So that makes sense to me that there would be, I guess. Oh, the deer actually are different.
Are they in a different spot?
They react completely differently. In the English one, they run straight across in front of you, and in the Japanese one, they're all the way to the right, and they stay to the right. They don't even
funny.
They don't even take off until just about the end of the clip.
How funny.
Yeah,
it's a real game. Like, and in some parts of the Japanese trailer, like, no shit, like the environment doesn't load correctly. And you see like a mountainside when Yuffie and Red 13 are attacking an animal or a monster. And no shit, this whole wall turns into like 3 tries. And it's like, whoa. And then it loads in like 2 to 3 frames later. It's like, oh shit, well there it is. So it's clearly like, yeah, the game still has like 7 months of polish ahead of it.
Well, yeah, and again, I'm assuming that this is Unreal 5 probably at this point. They're probably not using Unreal 4 any longer.
Yeah, I don't know. Just because like the development definitely started in UE4, and depending on how far along and how complicated the development is, they might or might not have wanted to make the switch due to just not having complete faith that their workflow is not going to be interrupted. I mean, and considering how fast development has been going for them, I would be surprised if they did make the full switch to UE5.
Yeah, but at the same time, that's kind of like the whole point of UE5.
Exactly.
Was to have like better streaming, better, larger environments,
and to convert your existing structure over to 5. So I don't know, like. I don't know if we've actually gotten direct confirmation whether or not, but that would, to me, be a big part of their initial marketing. Was like, they would want to say that shit,
This is interesting. When Cloud's going to the river, Aerith and Nanaki are in different spots in the Japanese trailer, and Barrett shows up. He doesn't show up at all in the English one.
Yeah, there's some spots of it during the battles where we saw other characters in the background that were not in the party. And they were still there, like waiting. In the background, like they're really far away.
Huh. Yeah, and then like that hill fight is different. Tifa's where Barrett is in the English one.
Chat saying there's a Rebirth trailer on YouTube with 4K quality options, right? But it's not 4K; it's fake 4K.
It's YouTube 4K.
We got confirmation. We got the trailer directly from the press site of Square. It's only 1080p. Just like the previous trailer. It's not, there's no 4K assets for the game. Even the fucking screenshots were in 1080p.
Yeah. Yeah, I see this shot right here where like Aerith, Tifa, Cloud are the characters in the party. Barrett's in the back firing his gun.
Yep. And he's not actually part of the main party.
I think they're doing something that maybe like Skies of Arcadia did, where like in that game, because it was a turn-based battle system, when characters weren't being, when you're not doing your thing, picking your choice, the characters that are just not being selected at the moment, they're just fake fighting. Like you just see the enemy and the characters just chopping and like, swinging arms at each other.
Yeah, they're not actually. They're. It's like they're ready to go in at any point.
Yeah, so it's like it's just sort of like gives you this idea that like, oh no, they're attacking, they're whatever. And I wonder if there'll be any sort of. That's a whole gameplay mechanic they could possibly be adding into the game, which is like not off screen, but like neutral or like support systems, right? Where like you could be like, okay, well, I have these stats and abilities I can basically upgrade my character with for when they're in support roles, meaning they're not part of the main party. Where maybe like Barrett like will do like certain little bit of damage, or maybe like health regen, or just maybe something very minor. I wouldn't be surprised if they added that to this game, where there's a whole support character class skill set or upgrade path or something you could do where it's like because they're going to be back there and they're going to be like, firing or casting magic.
Yeah, imagine materia for support materia for non-utilized main party members.
Yeah, like what if you did a thing where it's just like, I'm going to program your support system to revive me when I'm down like once or something, right?
That'd be really interesting. That's another interesting element where, things like the synergy materia and all that stuff could actually be utilized for the party members that aren't currently engaging.
Yeah.
That'd be dope. That would be really dope.
I think that might, and that would be something that definitely could be like, hey, this is an addition. This is how we're expanding our battle system. We're like adding to it because now there's a bunch of characters, of course. Also, when Yuffie's running away from Cloud, it's like, it's totally like the floor of a boat.
Yeah, it's the boat.
It's definitely the boat.
You don't find Jenova anywhere else in the OG. And once again, the remake timeline is pretty much almost 1-to-1 with OG7.
Yeah, like events still happen when they're supposed to happen. They just maybe happen slightly differently. Like, different things happen. There's I think like the biggest twist, and it doesn't even last very long, is like there's a part where I think Sephiroth kills Barrett in remake, but then he gets revived right away by the plot ghosts. Like that's like the biggest what moment that immediately gets changed, like reverted back to what it is.
Yeah, and that sort of like shows you the fact that, oh no, this is a sequel. Right, we are repeating the events that we did before, and there's a story element of the game that is forcing you to.
God, I wish this shit was playable. God damn it.
Yeah, dude, I wish I still don't know if it's going to be at Summer Games Fest, but I don't think it is, otherwise they would have said something.
Yeah.
And considering that like most of the assets and things that they've released for the game are only in 1080p, I just think it's not, up to snuff for a playable yet.
It looks really good though.
Like
this looks like when you see a gameplay like this, because you see HUD elements, you see UI.
Oh, it's a real game.
You're seeing a real game. You're seeing a real game being played on screen in front of you, which is what I always tell people, because they're like, there was a trailer in the Games Fest that was like actual gameplay. I'm like, and no, it's not. It's like cinematic camera shots, no UI. Like, I forget what game it was, but I'm like, this is actual gameplay footage. I'm like, no, it's fucking not. Like, if the camera is looking at the main character doing something cool with no UI, and you're just seeing the main character like shooting towards the camera, I'm like, that's not gameplay. But like when you see UI, and you see, especially if you see clipping of any kind, of any sort, it's real gameplay.
It's real gameplay. Yeah.
So, and like you were saying, you can see a Cloud's foot like straight clip into a rock or something, and like some texture asset doesn't load way in the back. I'm like, okay, so it's a real game. But it looks really good nonetheless. Which to me, I'm like, yeah, so the game's I would guess at this point, content complete. They're definitely not adding any more mechanics or systems to the game at this point. I don't even think they're adding any environments. I think everything at this point is just stabilization, optimization.
Like a lot of the core concept and what they're putting into the game has been figured out for years.
Yeah.
Like, has likely been figured out before 7 Remake Part 1 even came out.
Yeah, wasn't there like a statement that they were like going into development really quickly into Rebirth from Remake's release?
That's October 2019. They publicly stated that the development of, not conceptualization, right? Not like early game development, but all the systems were in place from 7 Remake Part 1, that they're starting development on Part 2 in October of 2019.
Which makes sense, and that kind of looks that looks like what we're looking at here. Because the battle system's mostly all pretty much figured out. Character movement is figured out. Everything's figured out. Like, you already know.
Most of that stuff was figured out with the first game.
Which this may end up being like one of the smartest like things they've ever done in a weird sort of way by doing it the way they did. Because I know a lot of people were kind of initially like put off. Oh my God, it's going to be split into 3 games or multiple games, and then one game is just Midgar. The game's going to be 10 parts long, and blah blah blah. Midgar
dude, I always felt it was going to be 3 parts. It always made the most sense.
But it seems like it's like this is exactly what's happened. Like, this is what's coming together. Is that like Midgar Remake Part 1 was done to get the hardest part of development figured out, and not like also not have to do that and then have this massive fucking game with many different areas and gameplay elements or whatever. Like it almost seems like this turned out to be like, okay, yeah, like this is the foundation, and then we'll build and then like all the other more like open stuff will come in the next part after we figured out how to make sure we nail down the first part.
Yeah. And then in part 2 you can fix the issues that arrived in part 1, which is like summons and shit. And summons weren't that good in part 1.
Yeah,
they were like horribly broken or not great.
Yeah,
so
pretty much
there's room for improvement.
Yeah, it's funny because like some people might say, "Oh, is this like an answer to the original game?" I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think this was I think they planned this early on.
Yes.
I think this was. I think early in the development, or maybe probably the part where they had to reboot development, or maybe even before that, because they said in 2015 that it was going to be a multi-part game. So they probably knew from the beginning. They're like, we're going to build a foundation, and then we're going to do the rest of the game.
To be honest, they might not have had the confidence of CyberConnect 2 to take that much responsibility, which is why they just took it back in house and restarted.
Yeah, I mean, and from everything I understand, a lot of it is not so much. It's not even that they were incompetent or they were bad. I think that's probably a lot of people's like misinterpretation. From what I understand, and take it as well, it was more just Square. Like when you're making like it's more like when we want to do a change or we want to like intervene or whatever, because CyberConnect 2 is not the writers of this game. They're not even really the concept design. They're not even the designers, really.
No.
They were there to build the game. And apparently it was just getting too difficult to constantly have to do nothing but conference calls, travel back and forth between studios and whatever. And it just got to a point where like the leads of the project at Square Enix, it was just easier to just move it into the same building.
Yeah.
So it's like if I decide, because apparently art was a big thing. Obviously, it would be with Nomura. It's like I want this changed, or I want that changed, or I want this design, tweaking it, and I don't have to call up someone and say like, "Here's the designs I want you to change."
Yeah, you're directly hands on.
Yeah. So
the and that, I mean, we know other stories in the industry where that is literally the case, where it's like, oh, we're going to take a famed like wonderful game and get it remade through this other studio. Turns out it does not meet the level of quality that we're really looking for, and we're just going to do it ourselves. Fuck it, right? And we already know of games that have done that, and I think it's a very similar situation with FF7.
Well, I wonder if maybe there was a point where. This is insane to me. This sounds insane, but part of me wonders, like, maybe there was a point where they were just going to farm it out, right? And they were like, we'll see what it is. The reception was so fucking over the top that they realized, oh shit, like, people's expectations for this are like through the fucking roof now.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, this was supposed to be a fun side project at one point, or like a fun sort of like an in-between. Like, basically something on the level of Final Fantasy 13-2 or Lightning Returns.
But it wasn't, because even in interviews, like they would talk about who wants to direct the FF7 remake, and everyone's like, I don't want to do it because I don't want to fuck it up.
Yeah.
There were interviews from that back in like the mid 2000s and shit.
Yeah,
where, like, everybody was worried about the eventual FF7 remake that they knew about, and they were like, no, I don't want to be the director. I don't want to fuck it up. Which is why eventually it fell into Nomura's hands, because he was like the only one left.
Well, and then wasn't there a point where they're like, we're not getting any younger? It's like, if we don't do this now, we're going to be too old.
Yeah, and I think that was Kitase. That was like, well, if we don't do this shit, then it's never going to happen. Who's better to do it than us? And then he kind of got everyone on his side.
Yeah.
So
and I think, I forget who it was, but he was the producer. He left. Was it last year? I think it was last year. Maybe it was earlier this year. One of the long time producers of Final Fantasies. Forget the name, but he left, and I'm like, I think he's leaving because I think he knows Final Fantasy's never been in a better spot.
Yeah.
And I feel this trailer really just proved it once again. I'm like, no, Final Fantasy's in the best place it's ever been, or at least since PS1 days. Like
For sure.
this is the best they've ever had it, where it's like they've got a brand new mainline title coming out, and we both played it. It's very fun. It's very good. 7 Rebirth is coming in, and it looks fucking great. You know,
Yeah.
and I think it was kind of like, I think you had a video or something where you said something along the lines of like, I thought 16 might be like, you know, sort of like their big open Final Fantasy. Like, oh no, like I kind of realized from our hands on, like, oh no, this game's not really that open. It's definitely a Devil May Cry style.
Yeah. No, we after we played 16, we pretty much called that it seems weird that they're releasing 2 big, like, open worldy, large zone Final Fantasies at the same time, that they might step on each other's toes. Oh, we just played Final Fantasy 16 for 6 hours. 16 is definitely not that.
Yeah, no.
16 is a more expansive Devil May Cry 5.
Yeah,
in many ways.
It is,
which is great and fun.
It is great.
It is not the big, like, hey, look at all these crazy fucking places that we can go and explore, like the way FF7 is being promoted right now.
Yeah,
completely different.
And from what you and I played, I honestly don't think that's just. I don't think that's the story that would even be fitting for 16. 16 is a story about, like, basically kingdoms at war, you know, and betrayals and traitors and blah blah blah, and then kaiju battles in between. 7 has kaiju battles, but 7 is very much a naturalist environmental story. It's a story about sort of like, you know, like loss is one thing, but also of nature versus technology, you know,
exactly.
And stuff like that.
They're 2 completely different games, like almost sufficing 2 completely different parts of the Final Fantasy genre, right? Of what like an RPG can be.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're obviously action games at their core, for sure. Both of them are, but they're doing very different things, which is fine.
Yeah,
that's great.
And I think 7 Rebirth is the game that would, just from a story standpoint, it makes more sense for this to be like the big opening, because like they show it in the trailer, the whole Aerith being amazed at the world, and then, like, you know, sort of Red 13 bringing her down to earth. Like, it should, you know, hey, it should even be more than this, or like, you know, the technology is going to destroy even this bit. You know, it may look nice, but like underneath it, the planet's dying. Kind of thing.
And it's an interesting part. You forget about Aerith because she just doesn't get to talk very much in the old game. But yeah, she's never been outside Midgar, you know?
Yeah,
she's never actually seen this shit before.
And she's got like this weird reclusive thing where she's afraid of the open sky and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I don't know. It just seems like,
reason.
Yeah. I'll watch the skis. I mean, skies.
Stay at home.
So, yeah, I think 7 was the game to do it this way with, and I don't know if this will affect, say, a hypothetical 17 going forward. It's really interesting to think of the timing of these 2 releases, where it's like, well, Rebirth comes out early 24. Does the last part of 7 come out before or after 17?
I think it comes out before.
Yeah, like,
because I think it'll be 17 will be a completely different game, most likely.
Yeah.
So, and the bones of 7 Part 3 are already just like ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if even 7 Part 3 is getting close to its development start time.
Yeah.
Just like how it was, like we already have kind of an idea that Part 3 is going to be a big global trotting kaiju hunt sort of game. You know?
Yeah.
And your big set pieces are going to be like, you know, the diamond weapon here and this there and that there, and they're going to most likely fit in all the materia hunting and all that crazy stuff into the main story, which would be really fun to get, like, the story of the Quadra Magic, the story of, you know, Knights of the Round. All that shit sounds amazing.
7-3 will be a set piece title for sure.
That's a big set piece. That's like the mega action game of, you know, of the trilogy.
Yeah.
But you know, all the systems are kind of in place. Everything like the world is practically done. They just need to alter the world because obviously it's going to change after, you know, Meteor.
Yeah.
And that's it. So most of their shit that you had access to in Part 2 is pretty much ready to go in Part 3.
Yeah, and you'll go back to Midgar, and part of me wonders if there's even going to be playable Zack sections in Midgar in this game. Maybe necessitating some of that giant 2-disc space.
Yeah, I think we will. I think we're just gonna. I think we're gonna play as Zack in his timeline in this game, and we're just gonna switch between the two, not on the fly, but in very specific story moments.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. Or you would go to Gongaga and, you know, hear about this town, and Cloud starts like freaking out and something like that, and all of a sudden you wake up as Zack.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you play as Zack for a little bit.
Because they're clearly, you know, they're clearly fucking connected. You know, the Laguna / Squall element of them is clearly connected.
Yes.
So that, to me, if as an FF7 fan, that's just how I would do it. That's how I would tackle the multi-timeline shit, the two main character shit. That's how I would do it. And it sets up for a more interesting part 3, where eventually these characters are going to realize that, you know, the other timeline exists. That Bugenhagen is most likely going to be the character in part 2. That's going to give you a hint that, you know, other things could be happening in the same reality, but not in the same way.
Yeah, and the other there's a weird thing from Remake where I feel like Aerith is almost aware.
Oh no, she is. Yeah, there's points throughout the story where she becomes like more aware.
Yeah,
as the story goes on.
And I wonder if that's gonna play into anything.
Well, dude, yeah, she literally like visits Cloud in a dream and is like, "You can't fall in love with me," and all this shit. And it's like, dude, what the fuck? Well, wait, what? You just know? Yeah, she just knows. She's just hyper aware. So, and even by the end of FF7, when like all the plot ghost shit is happening, she's talking like she's a different person.
Yeah.
You know, she's like not even apologetic about it anymore. She's like, no, this is the bad guy. Everyone pay attention. We got to stop this shit. So it's like, oh, okay. You know, she's, I feel like she's like connected, but maybe she isn't aware that she's aware, like kind of shit. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, which I wonder if that will play into any sort of like difference thing, because I think from what it was in Remake, plot ghosts are gone. They're dead.
Oh no, they're actually dead. That's the whole point of the end of the game. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not going to be an element in this game.
No. Yeah. That, well, guess who's in charge of all that shit now? Guess who is the new plot ghost? Is technically Sephiroth.
Sephiroth, yeah.
So he's going to be fucking with shit in a way that is not that will have an impact on our good old FF7 adventure in timeline 1 with the remake timeline, and then the Zack timeline. We don't know what the fuck is going to happen.
No, yeah, and that's the exciting part, is just kind of seeing how that's going to play out. You know, it'd be weird if it would be weird, I'll say at this point, if there is no Zack timeline that you play as or cut to, or like none.
That'd be weird as fuck.
Like if it just doesn't happen at all, or it only happens at the very end of the game again, like some little tease.
Yeah, to me it would be genuinely bizarre, especially since the first stuff we saw in the very end of Intergrade was all Zack shit, for them to just ignore that.
Yeah.
I think they're either like saving that for much later promotional stuff, or, you know, I almost don't see even a situation where that doesn't take place in Rebirth. I think this is the whole point of it, is this is where it takes place.
There's too much work was done on that, like that early part with like the Sector 1 and 2 blow up. And there was a tornado. Yeah. That was also weird. It wasn't a bomb, it was a tornado.
In the plot ghosts, there's a crazy fucking one. There's 2 frames at the beginning of the video. No shit, the very beginning of the video before you see all the disaster. In the latest trailer, it's 2 frames of a scene from Remake Part 1, where the characters get scooped up by this crazy plot ghost tornado, but there's 2 tornadoes, kind of representing each timeline, right? And the main party gets scooped up into Crazy Tornado 1, and it's the same visuals and shit, right? So what they're promoting is that, in the other fucking timeline, a similar thing happened because that's where the convergence was.
I see.
So both those events happen simultaneously, and they literally give you a 2-frame little peek that, okay, yeah, this is where that was, and clearly your party survived. Like, we made it, but shit went down with the other folks, and clearly they're all fucked up, either dead or not doing great.
Yeah. That is interesting.
Interesting as fuck is what it is.
And why would they start the trailer with that unless it was going to be an important part of the game?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm also glad that it's I mean, they showed this game last year technically, but I'm also glad that like we're not waiting much longer.
Yeah, no, dude, it was like, dude, after that fucking piss poor Sony showcase, Jeff was just like, no, I'll pick up that Sony showcase. I got this shit.
Why did Sony shit the bed so hard?
Jeff's show was actual E3. It was amazing. It was like, this is such a great show.
I mean, I actually really liked that Prince of Persia that they showed at the beginning. I liked, obviously I liked Rebirth. There was a lot in the middle where I was just falling fucking asleep, though. It felt like
there was some stuff that definitely was like there and neat, but for sure demoed better than the majority of Sony showcase.
Yeah,
I can't even like, dude, I don't even fucking know how many like indie games were in the middle there that were just like blending together. The one thing that was blending together a lot in this show was like a lot of knights and magic.
Yeah, holy shit, the medieval fantasy land. Last year was all space. This year was all like fantasy shit.
Yeah,
so much of it, and so many.
Anyway, it's getting late, and I still got to go over MK1 gameplay because I got to get down to LA in the middle at like 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah, well, MK1. Well, that was
everything else.
Yeah, Liza P's great. Just going to say that right now. It's like
I'm hoping I get a chance. I'm hoping I get a chance to play it tonight.
It's shockingly polished, and this demo is long as fuck.
Oh, is it really?
It's like 5 hours long, dude.
What the fuck?
I'm not shitting you. You think, oh, definitely this is where it's ending. Nope. It just keeps going.
God damn, is it that long, chat? Oh my god. I
gotta
at least check it out.
Keeps going, keeps adding. The pairing in this game is great. A little bit of a learning curve, like wrap your head around, but it's great.
That's awesome. It's awesome to hear like the first Bloodborne like is good.
It's also ridiculously unapologetically Bloodborne with automatons.
Oh, like, I know. Yeah, the devs said it.
Yeah. Someone said that in my chat too. Like, yeah, the devs even said so. I'm like, did they? I'm like,
no, they did. Yeah, they said like, yeah, we're huge fans of Bloodborne. We just wanted to create something that, pays homage to that without copying it.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't
pretty much.
The art's not as strong as Bloodborne. It's not, but it's still good. Yeah. And I think the demo's on everything, including PC. So I think you should be.
I already downloaded on PC.
All right, good, excellent. I actually think you're gonna really like it.
It looks great. The concept alone sounds fucking sick. And it's always sounded fucking sick.
It's actually it's actually done well too. Like I'm actually
watching some other people play like little bits. I'm like, this looks polished as shit.
Dude. It's surprisingly polished and surprisingly well done. Like it doesn't feel like an off-brand. It doesn't feel like Kroger Great Value Bloodborne.
Yeah,
it actually feels like Pinocchio Bloodborne.
That's good. That's good. I'm happy because it's always been one of those games that I hope is going to be good, but it's like, oh, are we ever going to get one of these big Korean-made action games, like the games out of like Korea and China, that have these huge ambitions and look insanely cool, but just never fucking come out?
Never come out. Yeah, or like just disappear, or like, oh, it came out on the PC in China or Korea, and like, exactly. Oh, well, then I never got to play it, kind of thing.
Exactly. I'm still waiting for some of those games to exist, and it's nice that this is the first one that actually is going to exist. It's actually a real fucking game.
Real game, and it's day one Game Pass if you have it. So
I'll play the PC version.
Well, I'm sure you will. Just throwing it out there. It's like, bro, if you're subscribed, you don't even have to buy it.
Get it.
You don't even have to buy it. It's just good.
All right. So tomorrow, I think if you want to stop by, I think Justin might be joining us later for the stream tomorrow. So it'll be like me, Kenny, and Justin talking about stuff. And then, if you guys want to drop over, we'll be talking about stuff and showing stuff.
I have questions for Kenny. Well, you and Kenny. I'll have a lot of questions for you guys tomorrow.
Okay. All right,
assuming. I'm just pulling out of my ass, assuming, but
I'll be seeing a lot of stuff, and then we'll be going to a thing on Sunday, which should be announced soon.
Soon.
Anyway. All right. I'll see you, dude.
All right. Later, man. Take care.